who has kindly come to share on step 11. And, can someone turn off the lights, please?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My name's Tosca. I'm an addict. I'm also addicted to misery, self-pity, taking myself far too seriously. Arsenal Football Club, Harrogate, quite a few things. It's been quite emotional. I went to school opposite Stratford Park, and my mum still lives in Stratford, and so I come through here once a week. But I never come over to this side, and I was just thinking I went to a reunion over Christmas, and a kid that I grew up with is living in a flat over there, and and all that stuff. So it kind of means a lot to me, like being in Stratford, and and the programme, and it's really weird because when I got clean, there was one meeting in East London, which was on a Wednesday at Leytonstone. I remember thinking to myself, how do people get clean in East London? There are no meetings, and now, they're kind of everywhere, and. I want to talk about Step, but I used to score at Charlene's, which is in Green Street in Queen's Market, and I did a lot of using around here, like at my mum's and that sort of stuff. My relationship with drugs was a bit like, I took loads and loads of drugs, discovered crack and fell in love. Do you know what I mean? For me, it was like falling in love. It became the thing that I wanted to do, and and it made it okay. And I actually think addiction is the thing that you think that you want's going to make it all right. Do you know what I mean? And that can be a host of things. And I've kind of discovered that in recovery, that, if I get that, it'll be okay. It's not those pair of trainers, it's not that woman, if it's not this, it's not that. So, and I know that I'm sort of blighted by addiction. Sometimes I can just feel it on me. I just feel, some sort of mania and me kind of spiraling out of control. I got clean, not because I was an addict. I got clean because there's nobody left, right? Yeah, there's nobody left, and and I could go weeks and weeks without having a conversation with anybody that make any sense and all that sort of stuff. And and I met someone in November 1995 called Wayne Joubert, and we're only anonymous at Press Radio and Film. And he looked different, and I said, Wagwan, and he went, I'm 90 days clean. I remember thinking, what the fuck is that? Why would someone want to be it? And all of that stuff just came to me. And I remember going to a meeting in May 1996, just before I got clean. People talk about treatment. I didn't know what they were talking about. I literally thought they were like putting electrodes to people's heads. Do you know what I mean? I've just got out of treatment, thinking, fucking hell, do you know what I mean? What's going on here? So, so I came completely sort of blind, and, and I came to get 30 days. Yeah, and that's like, I don't know, nearly 29 years ago. And my experience, and what's really interesting, in the basic text, it sort of says that this is esoteric of nature. And, I've become really sort of aware of that lately. And I think esoteric means just for the chosen few. So the fact that you're sitting here doing this means that, that this is important. This is this is really kind of valuable. And it's a step 11. And I suppose I'll just briefly get, the first 3 steps are, are really about, they're about finding a power greater than yourself. It's about finding God. And the first step, the principle is honesty. The second one is hope. The third one is faith. The next 3, 4 through to 6 are about finding out about yourself. And the first one is courage. The second one, integrity. And the 6th step is willingness. The 7th step is about humility. And humility really just means the truth about yourself. Yeah. And the beauty of the first 7 steps, they're all about me, which is my favourite subject, right? You know what I mean? So doing those subjects, yeah, it's fucking fantastic. He did that to me, they did that, blah, 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 me. But I want to repair, I want to look the world in the eye, then you kind of like, you need to look at 8 and 9, and 8, the principle is love, because I never saw anything from anybody's point of view whatsoever. It was always my point of view. And the 9th step isn't necessarily, it isn't about saying sorry and making an amends. It's about fixing stuff. And the principle of the 9th step is actually justice, and justice is actually balance. It's kind of balance. And, you know, the 10th step, you know, continue through prayer and meditation. The principle that is perseverance, because this is a daily program. It's a daily program which I love and it's beautiful. The fact is that, you know, I don't come here, you know, to be better than anyone else. I don't give a fuck. Do you know what I mean? Really, God came down there and said, one of us is going to use. I pray it was you. Do you know what I mean? It's like that. That's the kind of truth of it. You know what I mean? I come here to be a better me. You know what I mean? And the fact that it's a day at a time is really, really kind of important for me because, you know, lots of days I fail miserably. You know, and the interesting thing about step 11, and the principle of step 11 is prayer, right? It's prayer, it's spirituality, it's God. And, and I hate to say this, right? I hate to say this, but the program is about finding a power greater than yourself. It is. It's, it's not about no wheat, no sugar, great therapist, all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's about a power greater than yourself. And the steps 4 to 10 are really about self-reflection. That's really what they're about. They're about, what was I up to? How was I kind of doing it and blah, blah, blah. But in the essence of it, the essence of this program, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of such bad news. Right? the essence of it is this step, right? And when you kind of get right down to it, it's kind of like, okay, how, continue through prayer and meditation. And, and how, it's a bit like, if I'm not doing any prayer or meditation, if I'm not, if I'm not looking outside of myself, if I'm not kind of feeling that there's a sense of there could be another way and there could be, do you know what I mean? It's just another version of self-will, right? Yeah. And I have to own the fact that, my prayer and meditation is, I can only really do it, right? And this is really mad, right? I can only really do it in the summer. I can't do it in the winter, right? Yeah. And for the last 10 years, how I meditated, and it stumped me a bit now, how I meditated, is I went to a particular meeting every week and didn't share. Because meditating is about receiving a message. It's about being still enough and receiving a message. And for me, it was really interesting to kind of know that I wasn't going to share. Do you know what I mean? I'd take the time out, blah, blah, blah. It's the same meeting. I just went there and sat down and I just listened. I was out of my head, I wasn't in my saying, I don't know what he said, what am I going to share, and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. The dialogue, what should I share? Should I share how wonderful I am today, or should I say how shit I am? But the dialogue had kind of gone, and it kind of worked up to a certain point. And then I realised after 10 years, I'd lost the ability to share. Do you know what I mean? I'd lost the ability to kind of really take stock of what was going on for me, and it's part of this process was just doing this stuff. And what I decided, so what I sort of decided to do was that, and this is only this week, I've decided, and it talks in the big book about, seeking religion and other forms of this stuff to do this. And in my time around, I did the Alpha course, right? I went to the Alpha course, which is like, how to be a Christian. Do you know what I mean? I went along to that and did the 3 weeks and thought, you know what, it's not for me. Do you know what I mean? And I've sort of challenged what my perception of God may be and what it is and what it isn't. And I suppose, if you're looking, you're finding. It's kind of in the searching. There's a guy called Thomas Morton who, went to a monastery in Gethsemane Monastery. He went there for 13 years, didn't speak to anyone to find God's will. And he came out and they sort of said to him, what's God's will? He said, I don't know, but I know I'm getting closer to it. Do you know what I mean? So it's that sort of thing. It's that sort of thing. And this week, You know, me and my friend have decided they do guided meditations at the Buddhist Centre in West London, Monday through to Thursday lunchtime, and we've decided to go along. We've decided to go along to, you know, because how I meditate is I listen to Have a Talk with God by Stevie Wonder. It's generally about 6 o'clock in the morning. No one else is around. I sit around and I do a bit of praying, and, you know, and I find some sort of gratitude. But to be honest, it's light now. It's when I usually start to do it, when it's light, and I haven't started. Do you know what I mean? I haven't started. I'm still thinking, maybe it's not light enough. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not quite sure. Right, you know, I'm not quite sure. And, you know, and I hate, you know, my old sponsor got really ill. You know, and we had this real kind of this debate about the work. You know, we had this really big debate about the work, and he wanted to do it one way, and I wanted to do it the green and gold, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember us walking through South London, sort of debating this for like hours, and him sort of saying to me, you know, it don't matter. Do you know what I mean? It don't matter. You know, it's about a power greater than yourself. Do you know what I mean? I can go and get another book tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I can search the 204 12-step fellowships. You know what I mean? I could get loads and loads of information about how to do it and not to do it and the rest of it. Just find a method that's, you know, right for you. And, you know, and how I see it is like this. When I was a kid, I was heavily involved in pirate radio, right? Me and my friends, we ran a radio station called Kiss FM. 4 of us. And every week, we used to play at the weekends, every week. And I used to ring my uncle, and I'd say, "Did you hear us?" Right? And he used to say, "Yeah, I heard you, Chris with the bell. Fantastic, loved it, you know, beautiful." And I'd ring my mum up and say, "Did you hear us?" She'd go, "No, son, didn't hear you." Do you know what I mean? No, son, didn't hear you. Never heard us. Do you know what I mean? It's like, fucking hell, what's going on here? And when I got into recovery, I sort of realised what it was, right? Is that my uncle tuned in, yeah? And my mum didn't. So my uncle sat there going, made a connection, bang. And that was it. And it might have took him some time to do that. It might have took him some preparation. He might have thought, you know, this might have to move the air a little bit, might have to do this, might have to do that. But there is a connection. I can find it. You know, and my mum just went, fuck it, you know what I mean? can't be asked. And that's how I see my relationship with my higher power. That's how I see my relationship with my higher power. I see my relationship with my higher power as being something that, you know, that I can, you know, literally I can imagine a beautiful day with my higher power. Because unlike those steps 4 to 10, which are really about reflection, this is about, you know, what's going to happen today? What's it going to be like? How am I going to feel? What's the best solution for me? You know, guide me. Do you know what I mean? Send me some sort of message. You know, I'm clearing a channel for you to, you know, and generally, you know, it's a nice hot day, I've got the tunes on, there's no one about, you know, I've got 2 kids, and, you know, they're big now, so they don't live with me, which is great, you know, and I'm sitting about, and it's like, wow, do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is it, and it's kind of, it kind of sets you up in that way. You know, and I would say that it's, you know, once you've kind of realised that everything, right, is about the program, right? Everything is about the program. Whether I'm having a row with someone at work, or whether something's not working out, you know, what am I? I'm powerless. Do you know what I mean? I'm powerless. Fucking hell, sit there again. What do I do? Second step really is the solution, and the steps 3 to 12 are a way of accessing and maintaining that solution. You know what I mean? It always comes down to that. It's always the program. You know, I was rowing with my partner. Like madness this week, you know what I mean? I wanted to stab her, and all of this sort of stuff, and you know, I was gonna do something. I don't know what I was gonna do, but I was definitely gonna do something. And you know, I spoke to a pal, and he just said, "The program." Do you know what I mean? Work the program, and that is, you know, that's the essence of it. And when I'm doing that, it really does become about my third step, which my third step is really, you know, made a decision, and the decision is we're going to do the program. Do you know what I mean? And the 11th step is we're gonna pray for some sort of guidance of a better day, some sort of guidance of better understanding, some sort of guidance that people don't think the way that I do. Do you know what I mean? I remember my sponsor in my first year, I had a bit of an issue, and I was explaining to him what I was going to do, and part of it was like lying in someone's garden. And I remember he said to me, he said, "They've got a really good idea." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Whatever you think, just do the opposite." He said, "If we started with that, right, as a process, we'd go a lot further." You'd go a lot further. And, you know, and I know that that's where my thinking is. I know it. Do you know what I mean? I kind of know it. 2 days ago, I was on the A40 screaming at someone, you know, like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm screaming at someone, and I'm talking to someone in the program whilst I'm screaming at this other person. You know, so look, I'll end on this. You know, I owe the program everything, right? Yeah, I owe the program everything. And on a good day, it gives me a pause. And that pause is vile. It's vile, because left to my own devices, it's like, it just goes off. It just goes off. And my sense of step 11 and how it's worked for me is there is a higher power for me out there that when I take the time and the consideration and the rest of it, I can tune into. Some days it takes me a little bit more work than I'd want it to. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
That was a really, really incredible chat. Thank you so much for coming.